everybody, it's Greg here from Concord 9th to give you an instructional video on how to use our new Dahlia Turnabout stamp set and Dahlia Turnabout die. Many of you have been asking for us to come out with a smaller format turnabout that could potentially work in a mini MISTI, and so we put our heads together and came out with this, and we want to show you real quick how to use this stamp and die bundle together to create some really cool cards. So first I'll show you what the products are. We have some sentiments and things that you can use with the stamp set, and down here at the bottom we have the actual Turnabout stamp, and then over here we have the die, and it has similar functionality to how our Turnabout stamps work, but in a die format. So first we'll talk about the stamp, and then we'll talk more about the die in a minute. So I'll pull these off and pull on my mini MISTI. And I'm going to show you, for those who are not familiar with how to use Turnabout stamp sets, on the back of the packaging on all of our Turnabouts we have an alignment aid, and what this does is it helps you to find the center point on your stamp. It's really important to have that center point be as exact as possible, because the whole concept is about rotating 4 times. You do quarter turns with these stamps. What you'll do is you'll take this guide and you'll use it to, let me find my, there we go. What you'll do is you'll just lay your stamp right over the top of this guide, and then what we've done is we just, with a permanent marker, an ultra fine point Sharpie, we mark an X on the back of our stamp, so you can see how that has that on there. And that's the only time you'll ever have to do that, and what that does is it makes sure that you have your X marked on your stamp every time, so that you can easily find that center point. And then you can take any size square of cardstock that you have laying around, and it's really important that it's an exact square. And this one, for your mini MISTI, the largest that we found we could go is 5 3/8 inch by 5 3/8 inch exactly. And then you want to go as close to the, from corner to corner as possible. And then you have this jig that can be used over and over again for this turnabout in your mini MISTI. And the nice thing, so we wanted to take this as far as we could, so 5 3/8 was as large as we could go with before we started to hit the hinges on your MISTI. But the nice thing about that is it does allow you to have, to work with a card size, a standard card size panel. It'll be just slightly smaller than a card base. I'll have a card base right here so you can see. So this would leave about a 1/16 inch border around the side, outside of your card base. But we were pretty happy to find that that works with your mini MISTI. And so once you've marked your X on your stamp and you have your 5 3/8 by 5 3/8 square jig made, you're ready to start stamping. So I'm going to use some temporary adhesive, and I'll just be putting that on the back of my paper here. And sorry, it took me a second to find it, but I just put a little bit of that on here. And then you can, I'm going to align this right in the center of my jig, so you can see I have pretty even spacing here. If you wanted your stamped image to be offset, you could align it to the right or left edge of your jig. So I'm going to just keep mine lined up with the center. And now I can start applying ink, and it's gonna, you're going to keep your stamp right where it is, and then you're going to actually rotate that jig around. And so I'm going to ink up and do my first stamp. Okay. And then peel that off. Okay, so you see I have one layer, and I'm going to rotate 1/4 turn, clean off my stamp, and I'm going to apply coral color, I think. So let's do that now. Okay. And so I've already rotated 1/4 turn, and then make sure I get that nice and inked, and then peel that off so you can see the flower is starting to form. rotate that another quarter turn. I think you're probably starting to get the point, but cleaned off my stamp, and I'm going to apply this teal color, and again keeping it aligned in that top corner, and stamp that down and peel it off. Perfect. And this is my last quarter rotation for my last layer, and clean that off, and then we're going to go with this a deeper, close to navy color, and stamp down that fourth rotation, and there you have it. That turned out pretty nice, if I do say so myself. Take my MISTI off to the side, and then, because you just used some temporary adhesive, peel that off of your jig. Save your jig, keep it with your mini MISTI, and use it over and over again. Put that on your card base, and then you can see you have a Dahlia right there in the middle of your card. And then, using your stamp set, the sentiments in your stamp set, you can put any kind of sentiment in there that you wish. So you can see here, depending on the placement of your card base or your card panel that you put on the jig, will determine the placement of where your Dahlia is. So you can see this one, it's off to the right a little bit, and so the paper was actually just pushed over to the right on the jig. So that's really fun. And so that's essentially the stamping portion. It's very similar to our traditional turnabouts that we've released over the last several months, and lots of fun. And so now I want to show you how to start incorporating the die. And this is the very first time that we've ever used a turnabout die, and we're pretty excited with how it's working out. So I'm going to show you these. So these kind of represent traditional stamping turnabout techniques up here. And then here you can see this started, we did 3 stamp rotations, okay? And so you can see that it left 1 rotation of empty spaces. And so we actually have this die that can complete one of those rotations. And so the easiest thing that we have done is, you can see the die, this is important, has a circle cut out right in the middle, and that is your center point of your die. And then we have one of the petals that's also cut out or hollow, so you can see through the die that way. And you can see here there's this coral in kind of orange color and pink right there, the 1, 2, 3 petals there in the middle, and they kind of start to form a crosshair, and then there's an empty space right here. You're going to use the die, that empty petal right there, and you're going to align it in that open space right there, and then use your circle. And you can see, it's probably really hard to see on the video, but you can see the tiny tips of these 3 petals, and then you would just run that through your die cut machine, and you end up with a really cool effect where you have that stamp and then 1 layer of peek through. And another fun thing that you could do is, you know, run your die through, and this one we use some copper foil paper, and we ran it through, and we used all of those empty spaces to replace with these foil papers, and so it gives a really cool textural effect that way. So 2 different uses of a 3 rotation stamp. So I'm going to push those up to here so you can, so over here we have our traditional stamping. This one has our 3 rotations of stamping, and then using the die for our 4th rotation. And now what I'd like to show you is actually a way that you can create 4 cutouts with, so that you can see here, here's a card. We've actually used our die 4 rotations to create this peek through look, and it's really cool because it gives kind of a really intricate and detailed Dahlia look. And I'm going to just show you real quick how to align your die. So what you'd start with is whatever piece of paper you want to cut out. So here we've just cut out a square. It's about 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. And you would take your die, and again, utilizing that center hole, which is the center point of your die, and then this open petal, you would align right in the center. So you can see there, you would align the crosshairs of your cross with the center of this die. And then from end to end of that open petal, you would align the end to end with the line underneath there. And so you would run that through your die cutting machine, and it would end up looking like this. And then you would just continue to rotate and cut that out again. And again, right there. And then you rotate one other quarter turn. So it's 4 quarter turns, and then you have a completed Dahlia cutout that would end up looking like this on your card. And it's really, it's probably seems a little more complicated, but it actually, I was very surprised when we first started playing around with this product how simple it is. If you make sure that you have these exactly at 90 degrees, that's probably the most work you'd have to do, and then you've got it ready to line up for 4 quarter turns, and then you end up with this really cool intricate die cut. So I wanted to show you a few samples that utilized, so this right here, we've actually stamped behind, and it's and then we layered over top a really delicate four turn die cut, so it's completely die cut out, and then it peeks through with the stamp underneath. And then this one right here, we've actually, after we cut everything out, we used the fallouts, and it gives this really cool tonal, almost embossed look. And then another cool thing you can do is, so pretend this wasn't a card, but instead was a stencil. We actually used it as a stencil, and then it was nice because you can place dahlias anywhere you want on your card front, and just provides another creative technique to play around with this product. So I wanted to show you, before we finished up, just a few more cards that we've made. This is an example of 3 stamp rotation, and then on that 4th rotation using the die to create that peek through, so it gives you that color of the card base underneath there. So that one's really nice. Here's another one where we used the 3 stamp rotations, and then on the 4th rotation we die cut it out, and then also replaced in there with some of that foil paper, and it's just a really cool, I think it just gives the card a lot more of that wow factor. And then here we've combined a few different techniques where we stamped 2 rotations of the stamp with ink, and then on the 3rd rotation we used Versamark and white embossing powder, and then on the 4th rotation we've added in some of those fallout petals from the die, and so it's just got a lot of texture going on, and it's really neat. And then because it's close to the holidays, we thought it would be fun to see how we could turn this into a holiday card, and so we've used our Season of Cheer dies, so it says Holiday Cheer there, and then used some reds, and then one stamp layer of gold embossing, and we really love how this one turned out as well. So we hope this video helped to spark some creativity with our Dahlia Turnabout stamp set and Dahlia Turnabout die. We're really excited to see what you create with it. If you could remember to tag us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We're also on YouTube, and we're just really excited to see what you guys create with this, and we're excited to see where our creativity goes as a company, to see what other fun products we might be able to come out with this type of technique. Thanks, and have a great day.